All right, Phil Mickelson, he came out and he had to address another controversy that's been going on as far as the PGA Tour, and really the LPGA Tour is the focal point here. As you saw, I'm sure, Sean, over the weekend, the ANA Inspiration and how Lexi Thompson lost because she was assessed a 4-stroke penalty. Now, Lefty said, I know a number of guys on the PGA Tour that are loose with how they mark the ball and have not been called on it. They will move the ball 2-3 inches in front of their mark, and this is an intentional way to get it out of any type of impression and so forth, and I think that kind of stuff needs to stop. What are your thoughts on this comment from Lefty?
Yeah, you know, Jack was asked about it, Jack Nicklaus, in his press conference, and he said back in the old days they would kind of handle this quietly in the locker room of just, you know, you take a guy aside, you say, look, I know what you did, and, you know, and hopefully that's enough to get him to stop, and if it continues, obviously, you take it up the chain. But I think there's murmurs about guys who, like Phil said, are loose with marking of their balls, and guys know who they are. And I think sometimes it's kind of looked at as, you know, if it's a guy who's not especially competitive, it's like, basically, look, you're hurting your own reputation here, and you're not gaining that much of an advantage, and you're basically you're doing more harm than good to yourself by being loose here. And I think that basically, I think it just is handled internally. You know, guys pull that guy aside, or they get the PGA Tour involved and say, you know, this needs to stop, or else there's fines, there's suspensions, those sorts of things. But I think it's known that it does happen. It's known out here. It's not a secret, and I think that most guys look at it as you're doing more harm than good to yourself, and just that it needs to stop, and it should be handled internally. And maybe now guys will be a little more militant about this, so that when they do see it, knowing that Phil and other guys are in support of it being handled, that they'll speak up and say something to the guy and tell him that it has to stop.
What's the talk about some of the guys on tour in terms of the rule that you can call in from your couch and alert the tour to a rule violation like this?
Yeah, I think it's pretty unanimous this week that guys have just said this needs to stop. How you do that, you know, I'm not sure. You know, there's been a lot of jokes of like, I don't know what this phone number or this email address is, you know. Where do people get this? And frankly, I don't know where they're calling into or emailing unless they're looking up the emails of the rules officials. But I think the general consensus from guys is they think that there should just be no outside communication. You know, you couldn't call in to CBS and tell them that there was a missed call in the UNC Gonzaga game on Monday. And so just like that, guys feel like you shouldn't be able to call in and affect the outcome of a golf tournament. So I think that's pretty much the unanimous decision. It'll be interesting to see what this looks like going forward, because at the same time, while a lot of times there are negative impacts of these call-ins, there are times where an egregious rules infraction is caught. And so what happens if a larger infraction happens, it's caught on television but not on the course, and now we all see it on TV, we see it on Twitter, we see it all over social media, and we know this rules infraction happened, but we can't do anything about it. Do you just count it up as a missed call, or do you feel like, you know, that this guy got away with something in a sense? So it's a tougher one than people think, but I think that most guys would like to see the end to these call-in rules.
Yeah, I think the PGA Tour, or every organization as far as golf is concerned, every governing body needs to start implementing some form of replay, or having judges or officials that are specifically picked or selected to sit in front of monitors and watch the coverage so that they can be ahead of the game there. So if somebody else sees it in the crowd, then actually somebody with some authority from the USGA or PGA can make a move.